Hey folks, Tim here. It's week one of the spring 2021 Wilderness Guide training semester, and today we made our first craft. So crafting is one of the 7 elements of our programming here at the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School. Those 7 elements are skill, journey, craft, nature, culture, sustainability, and self. So our first craft today that we're making is this pot hook looking thing that we call an aru stick, and we use it around the campfire when we're cooking to move hot pots around. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the philosophy of crafting and then the idea of using marginal materials for crafts. Now, the philosophy of crafting is that all crafts that we make out here and just in life in general, the process of crafting is cumulative. Meaning if you want to make a let's say if you want to go build a canoe, right? You make a bunch of small, simple crafts, not unlike this, long before you go and try to build something big and complex. And the problem happens when people want to go right to the big, complex, hard things without putting in their time doing the small, simpler, easy things. Because we learn as we go. Like people learn when we're carving these today, they learn a lot about knife holds, knife skills, how the knife works, how the knife interacts with the wood. So there are lots of lessons you learn making simple crafts that you need to know in order to pull off more complex crafts. Now on short courses that are craft specific, say for example if we're making a longbow and a specific course on a longbow, that's a challenge because people haven't built up that foundation of simple crafts before they jump into the longer ones. So it's harder to pull off as an instructor. You've got to help people more along the way. The beauty of a longer program like we run here is that we design the progression of crafts to get people ready to build the complex ones. So first one always, this is a very simple thing. We'll make it out of this speckled alder that grows all over the place here. And a sharp knife, and it doesn't take a lot of complex knife holds or a lot of, you don't have to choose the perfect piece of wood in order to pull it off and make something functional. So one other part of our philosophy of crafts is ideally what's the minimum that I need to do in order to end up with a functional, decent, finished product. And by taking that approach, we can eliminate a lot of steps and a lot of things that are sort of extraneous. And, if my job in life, if I made the world's best aru sticks and then wrote a book about it, maybe that would entail a lot of steps that wouldn't need to be done in order to make something simple and functional. So often when you're learning from like a world-class expert in something, there's a point of conflict there because they have a certain way they like it done, and it might not translate into being simple and practical. But yeah, point of crafting is cumulative. You've got to make a lot of simple ones before you make the more complex ones. And crafting is a great way for us to interact with the natural world. So our point that we try to make here is that we will make functional crafts that people will use on a daily basis. So we're not so much interested in making like leather wallets and baby moccasins out of leather to hang from the rear view mirror of a car and stuff like that, but rather we're going to make things like aru sticks and then use them every day around the campfire. We're going to carve pot hooks that we use to cook on the campfire. We're going to do all those things, make them, and then use them, because really it's only in using it where you determine if you did a good job or not. Is it functional or is it not functional? And that's a pretty important sticking point. So we could go on and on about crafts, but I want to touch on, with a lot of things that are labeled as primitive skills or bushcraft or crafting from the land, the semantics don't really matter to me anyway. The acquisition of the raw materials that you're going to use to make the product, that's often a huge part of the equation. So for example, if I was walking around 600 years ago through the woods here with a person who had made 30 beautiful canoes in their life, and we're looking for a specific piece of wood for a specific part of the canoe. So they're going to have in their mind's eye, they know what they're looking for, and finding the very just exact right piece of wood is a huge part of the a huge part of the equation. So obviously a thing like an aru stick, you know, this can be just about any stick from the landscape. So we around here at the field school tend to make a lot of our crafts out of alder, right? And so much so that we have like a stand of alder, speckled alder down the road that we call Alder Mart. So you say we're going to Alder Mart to get our raw materials. So why do we do that? Often it is not the ideal material to make something out of. So if we picked up books on specific crafts, it wouldn't list alder as one of the things that are good for a certain craft. So we use it for several reasons. Number one, it's everywhere. We can't kill it here. It's very common. Number two, it tends to grow in waste places. So it grows along roads and wet ditches, and it'll actually crowd in our access road where we have to actively trim it back. Number three, you know, if you get used to making your things that you like to make out of stuff that nobody else wants, you know, you're just way ahead of the game. No one's going to call the police on you because you harvested a bit of alder that grows on the side of the road and is choking in somebody's access road. In reality, they'll probably thank you for doing the clearing for them. And I use the analogy that, you know, if you have a friend who's a avid gardener and you show up at their house because there's a certain weed that grows in the garden that's really good for something that you want to use it for, and you go weed their garden for them, they're probably not going to be upset and angry and yell at you. They're going to say, hey, thanks for doing that. So if you get in the habit of making your crafts and getting your raw materials for things that you want to make and use and build out of other people's waste products or things that no one else sees value in, you're just way ahead of the game. So this morning on the course, the analogy I used was if I wanted to build an aru stick and you know, I read in a book that the best wood to build it out of is like some rare California redwood that doesn't grow near here that I had to buy on eBay or harvest illegally and at night and all that. Yeah, life would be a lot harder. So I make life very simple by taking this thing that grows in abundance where I am, and people don't really want it. There's no real economic value for it around here. Like they don't harvest it and take it to the lumber mill or anything like that. It doesn't get big enough for that. And I can't kill it. So if I've built my crafting world around that easily accessible, super renewable, nobody else wants it raw material, life is real easy. So just a couple of points about crafting today and raw materials to make stuff. And now I'm going to go cook some lunch using my new aru stick. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.